That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. And Jim, might as well start with this, latest take for the PQ. Paul St. Pierre Plamondon now making a big deal about the high-speed rail, something that we thought would be good for Canada. But of course, if it's good for Canada, it's obviously not necessarily good for the PQ or Quebec, apparently.
Well, I mean, when I first saw this story, I honest to God thought it was a post in the Beaverton, which is a Canadian satirical magazine. And for those of you who have never heard of the Beaverton, folks, they have headlines like, due to Quebec language laws, all 2026 hurricanes have to be named Jean-Pierre. Okay, that's the kind of thing. But when I saw this, it's not just that the head of the PQ is saying, we don't want your stupid nation-building, national unity railway project here in Quebec. If we form the government, we're going to walk away. Oh, yeah, but by the way, our friend in the Bloc Québécois, you're saying, the Crown Corporation is saying this is going to cost $90 billion. Our friend, the MP of the Bloc that represents an area that could face expropriation, is in fact saying, oh no, it's going to be $200 billion. So if we walk away from this, we want $40 billion in compensation to be spent on our infrastructure, because let's face it, the federal government has not been paying much attention to Quebec's infrastructure, which is quite hilarious because in the 40 years I've been in this line of work, Aaron, I can give you a succession of Quebec governments, including the Parti Québécois, that didn't give a damn about Quebec's infrastructure. And there are people listening to us on the way home right now who are realizing that neglect, whether it's in the roads, whether it's in traffic control, you name it. But this knee-jerk reaction, this absolute kind of just this side of parody reaction from what is supposed to be a government in waiting should be a wake-up call for a lot of people. We've had the three mayors of Quebec's largest cities have already said this is ridiculous. This is this is a necessary project. And you know what? By all means, question the project. Question what the benefits will be. Question, do you really know how much it's going to cost and who is going to benefit from this? But to turn around and essentially, I don't know, put on your burlesque makeup of being some, automatic knee-jerk separatist who is, is against everything from Ottawa. Indeed, last week's announcement of $10 billion in funding, that was just a ploy to beat the PQ. I'm going to be fascinated to see if Léger is polling right now. I'd be fascinated to see what the result's going to be for the PQ in the next survey, because honestly, you got to ask. I won't say what were they smoking, Aaron. I'll be more polite and I'll say, what was their state of mind when they thought this was a good idea to come out with?
By the way, what's that line, Jim? We don't want what is it from a famous movie? I can't remember the line. We don't want your stinking railroad.
Well, we can say railroad. We don't need no rail. We don't need your stinking railroad.
There you go.
But this is it. That was a bunch of drunken Mexican banditos. Here we have what is supposed to be a government in waiting, and it was so fascinating because this bomb got dropped. I heard about it early this morning, and rather than come out and defend what he said, Paul St. Pierre Plamondon snapped up the job of Joel Arsenault, who's a transport critic, which I thought was very, very unfair, because let's face it, if you're making these enunciations, you should turn around and defend them yourself. But I just tell you, there is a weird tone beginning to seep through this image of the PQ, which no matter, you could hate separatism. By and large, most PQ governments have looked like other, governments in waiting or whatever. This one is just getting more and more weird, with whether it was, questioning the loyalty of Quebecers who dared to say they want to work with the federal government in terms of cultural funding. There is a weird, almost dark side to what's coming out of the PQ these days. I hope they just for the benefit of political discourse in Quebec, I hope they change the channel on this, but it doesn't seem to be headed anywhere well. And as I saw one quote about this announcement saying it appears that Monsieur St. Pierre Plamondon doesn't understand how this works, because if there is no project, Quebec ain't getting no $40 billion. Even I could figure that out. So why the hell would you say something so demonstrably stupid and perhaps very, very damaging for your political future?
It's interesting, Jimmy. If you remember back, and I think I'd asked you this question a while ago, polls started showing that, the big surprise for the PQ, leading and all that, and then continually after that, polls on separation in the referendum question were going lower and lower and lower to the point where I think we said a couple of weeks ago they're lower than they've ever been. And I think I asked you at the time, so imagine you're Paul St. Pierre Plamondon, right? And this was everything and anything that you have to push with separation. And it's telling you the polls are, people are simply not interested. And my question, I guess, was, what's he going to talk about? What's he going to find to push? Well, we're finding out what he has, and it's not very much.
Well, not just that, Aaron. You've got to look down the road. I mean, we're going to go into a campaign. We're going to have leadership debates. Do you not think this announcement is going to stick to him like glue?
Yeah.
Do you not think that, and I don't care. And remember, the only real echo we're hearing of this point of view on this high-speed rail link, which God knows has been like an urban legend in Quebec for a generation and a half. But the only echo we're seeing is from the Bloc Québécois, which says that it can't vote for the same reasons, for the same separatist reasons as the PQ. Oh, yes. And Pierre Poilievre, head of the official opposition, who basically says everything in Canada is broken. So why would you want to build a railroad? This is not the wagon you want to be hitching your star to, Monsieur Saint-Pierre Plamondon. And honestly, it was, I hate to say it this way, it was such an easy softball over the plate, Aaron, that even Sean Milliard jumped on it and belted it out of the park, saying basically, this guy is clueless. He doesn't understand what's going on. He doesn't understand what the priorities of Quebecers are. And quite frankly, and we're going to be having this conversation over and over again between now and October, how long is it going to take for it to sink through to these professional politicians or these would-be premiers of Quebec that the number one issue is not separation? It isn't even national unity. It's affordability. It's being able to start your day not worried about your financial situation and not dreading when the cashier at your local supermarket hits the total button on your order, because those numbers as well are scaring the hell out of everybody. So really, a high-speed train, don't like it because of Canadian unity. I don't really think the PQ is going to get a gold star for its conduct today.
So, Jim, I think Brian found the clip that but we don't need no sticking railroad. It's from the movie where they go, we don't need... Remember this? Yeah, treasure this. Here's the line, though.
Badges. We ain't got no badges. We don't need no badges.
Thank you.
I don't have to show you any stinking
Right.
badges.
No stinking railroad for anybody, apparently, in Quebec if you're voting PQ.
Excuse me, before we go any further, because just a PS on that clip, because when Humphrey Bogart asks them who they are, they pretend that we are the federales, the mounted police. So I just love that.
I'm amazed that you remember that movie's from like 70 years ago or something. That's incredible. All right.
Stands up good.
Listen, I need to ask a couple of things here. First of all, let's talk really quickly. We found that another CAC member has decided not to run. What number are we up to now for the original number?
From 76. We have 76 members of the caucus, which is down from the second term. I think they were up in the 90s, and people have left and whatever. But here's the thing: 30% of the caucus, of the sitting caucus, says we are not going to be running for another term. Now, a lot of those people are cabinet ministers and whatever, but what we're not seeing is the corresponding, and I'll give the PQ this, they are being very diligent about announcing virtually every day what candidate they have running in which riding. I'm not seeing people exactly lining up to run for the CAC, and quite frankly, looking at these headlines, I'm not entirely sure how long this, as far as I'm concerned, absolutely artificially created myth that, oh, no, the CAC's going to come back as a different leader now. So I think the CAC is still on fire. It's just rolling over down the side of a cliff before it falls into the ocean. But the fact is, this government is done. It is sort of a dead man walking, and I don't really see how anybody who has any real political aspirations would want to run for this party this coming October. All
right, last thing I want to ask you to weigh in on. I brought this up, and I'll come back to this when we get done here. Montreal's police union did a survey, said that 70% of Montrealers want this city to have a municipal bylaw of some kind, where if you end up, kind of going after a cop using misogynistic language, dehumanizing, whatever you want to call it, that becomes something that is a ticketable offense. What do you think of this?
I think that's an excellent idea, if only because it will prevent you from running the risk of having your head cracked open or getting shot by mistake. I mean, let's face it. These are people who literally have the power of life and death over you. And if you're too stupid to back off, and I know what we're talking about. We're talking about this creep who went after this female officer. And by all means for that. But by and large, okay, People have got to smarten up. And I'm sorry. Well, you know what? Yeah, you got that right. But you know what? This man or woman, as I say, has the power of life or death over you. Don't be stupid. And quite frankly, I'm in favor of anything that will elevate the level of discourse in this city and, quite frankly, in this society. So if the idea is you get a ticket, if you run your mouth off at a cop, good on you.
Jim, is it a generational thing? Because I wondered out loud at the end of taking some calls last time. I don't remember this being an issue with cops. And nowadays it seems people just, have the license to say and do whatever and expect that nothing will come of it.
Because you put it on the internet, and let's face it, it's like, oh, then it's magic, right? I think, like my favorite cartoon where some guy's just got hit in the head and he's sailing across the bar, and it says, it's all at once Gerald realized he was no longer on the internet. That's the thing. I think it's time reality knocked on the door and said, listen, there are consequences for what you say. We have enough cowards hiding behind how many anonymous handles, going after usually women online, politicians, you name it, okay? And frankly, if you can get a ticket for just melting off, but remember, you also have to prove that it fulfilled these criteria. I don't want to have some cop having a bad day saying, "What did you call me?" I didn't say anything, officer. I'm getting a ticket. So you know what? You got to be careful on that.
Well, that brings up the issue of body cams, right? Because that was the suggestion, right? Let's go ahead and do that.
But okay. But here's the other question. Let's ask the Montreal Police Brotherhood what they think of body cams.
You're suggesting they're the ones who've been holding this up?
I'm certainly. I'm not saying they're holding it up, but I don't think they're saying they're not chomping at the bit to have their membership hooked up with cameras. And sort of like having the responsibility of turning them on or off or doing whatever.
It's not much of a responsibility, though, to be perfectly honest, is it? I mean, turn them on. Other cities have been doing this for years, and we're still just talking about it and doing nothing about it.
I know, but listen, I'm not arguing. I think it's an excellent idea, and the excuses that it even comes from police management over this. Oh, we don't have the room to store all that. Shut up, It's like, come on, have you heard of the cloud? It's like, come on. Okay. But there has been a real reticence on the part of the Montreal Police Department, I think management / rank and file on body cameras, even though in many cases I think it would protect an officer in a situation that can be potentially controversial.
All right.
But
we'll leave it at that. We'll see what our listeners think. Jim, thank you. Appreciate it.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll. One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them.
It's only love, and that's all. Bryan Adams Radio. I'm coming back to you. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app. Everybody